Have you ever opened your bank app and felt your chest tighten, even before the numbers fully loaded? Not because you didn't already know what you'd see, but because somehow those numbers felt like they were saying something about you, like they were quietly judging you. Maybe it was after paying rent, or buying groceries that somehow cost more than last week, or realizing that even though you've been working nonstop, you don't really feel ahead. And in that moment, it doesn't feel like a money problem. It feels like a you problem, like you should have known better, like you messed up somewhere, like everyone else got the manual, and you didn't. That feeling is incredibly common, and it's also deeply misunderstood, because most money stress isn't actually about money. It just feels personal. Here's the part nobody really tells you. We grow up thinking money problems mean irresponsibility, or lack of discipline, or bad choices. So when things feel tight, when progress feels slow, when savings don't look the way we hoped, the blame turns inward almost instantly. We don't say, wow, this system is complicated. We say, what's wrong with me? And that belief gets reinforced everywhere. Social media shows people doing well without context. Conversations about money are vague and performative, and silence fills in the gaps with shame. So when you struggle, it feels isolating, like you're the outlier, like everyone else figured it out except you. But here's the truth that rarely gets said out loud. Money stress is often structural, psychological, and environmental. Long before it's personal, we just experience it emotionally. So it feels like identity. Think about how money actually shows up in your life. It's tied to where you live, how safe you feel, what you eat, how much rest you get, whether you can say no to a bad job or a bad situation. Money isn't abstract, it's intimate. So when there's pressure there, your brain doesn't process it as a spreadsheet issue. It processes it as a survival signal. That's why money stress feels heavier than other problems. It hits the same parts of the brain that deal with safety, belonging, and self-worth. Your mind isn't saying, I need to optimize my budget. It's saying, am I okay? And once you understand that, a lot of the shame starts to loosen its grip. Let me give you an example that might feel uncomfortably familiar. Two people earn the same income, same salary, same city, same age. On paper, they should be in the same financial position, but one has parents who helped with college, or let them live at home for a year, or covered a medical bill quietly. The other didn't. One had a safety net they never had to think about. The other had to be their own emergency fund from day one. Fast forward 10 years. One looks better with money, more savings, less stress, more flexibility. The other feels behind and blames themselves. But the difference wasn't discipline. It was starting conditions. We almost never account for that when judging ourselves. And this is where psychology comes in. Humans are wired to internalize outcomes. When something goes well, we credit effort. When something goes wrong, we credit character. So if your finances feel unstable, your brain looks for a personal flaw to explain it. You're bad with money. You don't have enough willpower. You made the wrong choices. That story feels simple and painful and wrong because it ignores timing, opportunity, randomness, and pressure. It ignores the fact that many financial decisions are made under stress, not calm. And decisions made under stress don't reflect intelligence or discipline. They reflect urgency. Think about how different your choices are when you feel safe versus when you feel cornered. When there's a cushion, you plan. When there isn't, you react. When money is stable, you think long term. When it's tight, you think in days, sometimes hours. That's not a moral failure. That's human biology. Scarcity changes how the brain works. It narrows focus. It shortens time horizons. It makes small problems feel loud and urgent. So if you've ever wondered why it's so hard to get ahead, when you're already struggling. That's why. The system demands long-term thinking from people who are forced into short-term survival, and then it blames them for not thinking long-term. Another reason money problems feel personal is because we rarely see the full picture of other people's lives. We see outcomes, not trade-offs. We see the vacation, not the credit card balance, the new car, not the family help, the calm confidence, not the quiet anxiety. So comparison creeps in, and comparison is brutal when context is missing. You start measuring your insides against other people's outsides, and you always lose that game. Here's something subtle but important. Money is one of the only areas where effort and outcome are loosely connected. You can work incredibly hard and still struggle financially. You can make all the right choices and still get hit by things outside your control. Health issues, family responsibilities, economic shifts, timing. Yet we talk about money as if it's a perfect scoreboard of effort and intelligence. It's not. It's a messy mix of behavior, opportunity, luck, and systems layered over time. When you forget that, every setback feels like a verdict. Now, here's the turning point. The moment things start to change isn't when you suddenly earn more or save perfectly. It's when you stop treating money stress as a character flaw. When you shift from "what's wrong with me" to "what's actually happening here." That question creates space. Instead of shame, you get curiosity. Instead of self-attack, you get clarity. You start noticing patterns instead of blaming yourself. You realize maybe it's not that you're bad with money. Maybe you've been managing pressure, not finances. And that reframing matters more than it sounds, because shame shuts down learning, but understanding opens it. When you stop personalizing money problems, you make better decisions almost automatically. You're less reactive, less emotionally charged, less likely to swing between extremes. You don't go from panic spending to unrealistic restriction. You don't avoid looking at your numbers just to protect your mood. You start engaging with money like information, not identity. And that's where calm progress actually begins. This doesn't mean ignoring responsibility. It means placing it in the right place. You can acknowledge choices without attaching your worth to them. You can make adjustments without self-punishment. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at saving," you might notice, "My expenses leave very little margin right now." Instead of "I'll never get ahead," you might realize, "This phase of life is expensive and demanding." That shift sounds small, but emotionally, it's huge. It turns money from a mirror into a map. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like being honest about what you can control and gentle about what you can't. It looks like building tiny buffers instead of chasing perfect systems. A few weeks of expenses instead of an idealized emergency fund. Consistency instead of intensity. Progress instead of comparison. It looks like understanding that financial calm often comes from reducing pressure before increasing performance. More breathing room before more optimization. And sometimes, the most financially healthy thing you can do is stop waging war against yourself. Here's another truth that doesn't get enough airtime. Many people don't need more information. They need less self-blame. Most adults already know the basics. Spend less than you earn. Save when you can. Plan ahead if possible. What gets in the way isn't ignorance, it's emotional overload. So when you're thinking about improving your finances, ask a different question. Not, "What's the perfect strategy?" but, "What would make this feel slightly easier to manage?" Easier lasts longer. If money has been feeling heavy lately, I want you to hear this clearly. Your stress makes sense. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you're navigating something complex with imperfect information and real constraints. That's not weakness. That's being human. Money problems feel personal because money touches everything personal. But that doesn't mean they define you. They describe a moment, a context, a chapter. not your character. Progress with money is rarely loud or dramatic. It's quiet adjustments, small realizations, gentler conversations with yourself. It's learning to separate who you are from where you are. And once you do that, something interesting happens. You don't just feel less anxious. You think more clearly. You make decisions from steadiness instead of fear. And that's usually when things start to slowly, almost quietly, improve. You don't need to be perfect with money. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop making your struggles mean something about your worth. Because they don't. They mean you're in the middle of something. And being in the middle is allowed. Progress beats perfection. Every single time.